Right, so I'm definitely not a loyalist and in no way a supporter of the royal family. I'm as anti-monarchy as you can get. But I want to make this point that's neither really in defense or in offense against the royal family. It's just kind of like very statementized fact. Basically, people try to defend against the onslaught of abuse the royal family gets with saying, oh, they're human too, they're just as human as you or I, they are just as moral and just as, human, simply put. But now I'm not saying they're not human, I'm not going into any of the lizard fanatics here, but like with the psychological burdens, it's hard to call them burdens considering how much good and benefit they gain from them, but with the amount of psychological onputs upon the royal family, there's no way their brains and mindsets can function in the same way as the humans. We know from observation of just, semi-rich people, not even people to the treasury extremes of them, just people with enough disposable income to chill. Their brains function in different ways and they have different moral systems and they work differently, and the change from being lower class to upper class changes a person's mental state, changes a person's mindset, changes how a person thinks. So it's not sane to say, well, we can defend the royal family by saying they're just like you and I, because for two very glaring reasons they are not like you and I. One being leaders of a fucking empire, and the second being there's no way with their way of life, and life is every experience a person's had, and that is entirely and exclusively life. Nothing else can be burdened. You are only what you know and can know, and there's no way they can know the life we know, and no way we can know the discremities we know, and there's no way we can know the extremes they know, so therefore there must be a mental disparity, and they must function even on the minuscule neurotypical level, neuroscientific levels, somewhat differently, because of how they live and how they are so astronomically separated from the lower and middle and large majorities of the upper class, and the mental disparity between the lower barrows of the upper class and the working class are hugely different. It's inevitable that they are not going to click like we do. Their brain chemistry works in some different way. Money changes minds, and it's not just money, it's power. And these people aren't particularly power hungry per se. They may be in personality, but per se they're not, because there's nothing for them to hunger for in that position. They were born with everything. They were born into that wealth, into that stature. Think of the younger generations now, how George and Archie and I think it's Charlotte are going to grow up in that world where you will know you'll be a monarch and you have everything and anything and whatever, and all these people worship you, surround you, are lesser than you. There's no way you can grow up with that and not have that go into your mind as something that no other human, unless someone in that position, can have. Think of people with like schizophrenia or DID who convince themselves they're kings or queens or they're gods. That's a literal mental change. The brain chemistry shifts so they can exist like that. They can't have a normal functioning brain to exist like that. You can't have a normal functioning brain to appropriately perceive yourself as a monarch, It's not a defense. I'm not defending them by saying, well, we can't bully them because they have funny brains that don't work like ours. Oh, we can. We can. And that's an even bigger flaw of monarchism, The fact that it creates these fortified humans in stature, in power, in money, in their literal minds. That is a huge flaw, and it is absolutely unnecessary, absolutely useless, and just a bullshit of tradition. But I'm not getting into that, because this is not a monarchy video in terms of pros and cons of monarchy. There's no way the Queen can actually be a functioning, sane human being, and none of her descendants and ascendants, because, look at the royal family, look what they have, look what they get, look what they're given, look what's thrown through their central synapses. There's no way they work like you and I. There's no way they can be as this, as we are, it's just not compatible with neuroscience.